Okay, so I thought I'd show everybody my workshop and what money for sponsorship of the stories is going towards. It's by no means complete, but there's something to show at least. Originally what I had was basically just a pergola structure, an open-sided structure. You've probably seen the pictures. I've added a side wall and a back wall that's sort of put together from bits and pieces of timber. The other side wall is essentially, well, a tarp. It's good enough to keep the weather out. And the plan is to add a front wall of glass, of polycarbonate glass, once I've got the money. Important part of every workshop, a blackboard to prototype ideas on. Lighting is these things, plus the LED strips. I've got a solar panel system I've hacked together. That's the charge controller and fuse box. So I've got a battery bank there of two 7.2 amp hour batteries. The green thing beneath that is the distribution box for the power. As you can see, it's pretty crude, but it works. There's a little circuit up there is a reduction circuit. It takes the 12 volts from the batteries and turns it into, yes, alright Pussycat, and turns it into 6 volts to power night lights. The main lighting's on 12 volts, if you can see what I mean. And I've got a work light I've hacked together up there. That's a 6 watt 12 volt LED battery. It's usually used for car side lights and things like that, but it makes a pretty good work light. Oops, excuse me, just tripping over the floor. Yeah, that's another thing that needs doing. And you can kind of see how far the floor drops from one side to the other. So I need to lift those flags and level them out. I've got, yes, that black thing there, that's a mains plug. It's IP66, it's weatherproof. Connected to a 20 amp cable that runs up the fence and to the house. It's good enough to power, well, mostly hand tools at the moment, but I will eventually get myself a drill press that'll go in that corner. And I'm building, well, where that, for lack of a better word, mess will eventually become a workbench, and with angle grinder, or bench grinder and belt grinder on it, which is why the tarp needs to go eventually. I plan on replacing it with corrugated iron for purposes of sparks and things not causing fires. Those two cables, that's a 12 volt supply. One runs down to here, which is a control panel for the forge blower at the back. That's a 12 volt marine blower. I've got now the control panel there uses a speed controller. You can probably hear it now. It's fairly quiet, and that was hacked out from an old USB port that had a sort of little doomsday thing. You know, you press the button and it makes a noise, and so on, fulfilling James Bond villain fantasies. But it serves a different purpose now. I haven't got the lights hooked up on that just yet. I'm lacking a 12 volt LED lamp. The other line you see there runs down under the forge through a metal pipe to yeah, that's Perry to under the bench, because I've got under bench lighting with a little stud switch there. Behind those is another LED strip. Door and so on is just, well, bits of timber I've put together with a glass panel in. Now those jars, they contain night light, so ambient lighting, when it goes dark they light up with some LED strings in them. It's just because it looks nice. Speaking of which, I've got that rigged up as well. Now, hang on. That little black box there is a daylight sensor. So if I put the bit of black tape over the LED, photocell, as you can see, it all lights up. Yes, Moroccan land. And that. Because why not? Other things to do. As I said, I'm building a front panel for this. There'll be timber running from the top there down, and another from side to side, making the whole thing essentially a rectangle. Actually, I can show you. I've still got the diagram on the cut thing, like that, with a series of battening across. The polycarbonate panels I've got my eyes on Amazon, and basically 2 foot by 4 foot. So, if you can imagine a series of 4 foot panels across there, that'll be static, and another one on the other side, but they'll be in a wooden frame that will sort of slide that away. So basically the whole, oops, yeah, okay, the whole thing will just slide across, and that is a water feature that never really worked. It leaks. That's what those little solar panels are for. That's going. That will be filled in. I'll put some boards down, and seating area, writing nook, reading nook, whichever. It'll go there. Oh yeah, lily of the valley. That's why that's hanging up. It's toxic to cats. Yeah. That's sort of like projects for this year. I'll pan up. That's the solar. That's a 40-watt solar panel. There's another 10-watt one at the back there, which has always receives sunlight. So that provides 50 watts total power. That's enough to charge more than just the 2 batteries I've got in there. If you see those white bits there, those are like the empty cardboard boxes that the batteries came in. So I'm planning on putting another 2 batteries in there, giving me a total of 29 amp hours worth of power. That will give me enough days. That'll give me essentially a day's worth of power for the blower. The forge itself works fine. There's a few modifications I need to it, like painting that door. I also plan on putting a grill in there so it gets naturally aspirated as well as the blower. Because at the moment, if you turn the blower off and close the door, the fire goes out. That's not exactly optimal. Back there is a mess. It's a wood pile. But, you know, it's a forge. It needs fuel. If you see what I mean. Yeah, one big wood pile. And a fence that needs replacing at some point. As you can see, it's open at the moment. And the plan is to eventually enclose that and basically keep the weather out. And there is more or less, excuse me. Sorry, I'm not very good at using the video camera. That's more or less what I plan on doing with this at the moment. It's a functional workshop, more or less, at the moment. The workbench gets used. The forge doesn't really get used at the moment because I've got no way to use the hot tools. But But it's coming on. What else to say? Oh well, yeah. Other projects. Once that wall's worked out, I'm putting another power line in from that box down under the floor to another plug set there to power all the bench stuff, and eventually I'll get enough cable to run up here to the shed, which is currently basically somewhere to put stuff that we don't have anywhere to put stuff. It's awful, that shed. I mean, you can see the gaps in the wall where the mortar's rotted away. It needs repointing, the roof leaks. It's not really a usable size at the moment. One door is the shed, one door's a coal hole. There's just like a single skin of brick between them, so I'm going to knock that through, use the bricks to build a bunker over on this side, if you see what I mean. And yeah, and then that'll become a sort of workroom, basically. So essentially what I'm doing is adding room to the house and gardens, now that I actually own them. And yeah, it doesn't get used very often, the sheds, so I might as well put it into some sort of use. But you can see why I need to do some serious work on that, and why that's getting left until I've got more time and money to do it. Oh yeah, that thing's the cat shelter. I've got that plumbed into the voltage system now, so it all lights up. And eventually I'll put a heating pad in there that's temperature controlled, so the cats will have somewhere to go outside when it's horrible. But they still want to be outside because they're mad buggers. Hello, Kazin. That's my senior cat. Say hi. Meow. Yeah, alright, so not impressed. Yeah. There'll be seating, because once this is enclosed, you can draw this back. You'll be able to draw this wall back and sit and enjoy the sunshine. Yeah, that thing's a cat tree, by the way. Because, you know, the cats use the garden more often than I do, frankly. It's not bad when you consider that, what, 80-90% of this is basically reused scrap. Let's see. 2 main longitudinal timbers are bought. The rest of it, it's just bits and bobs I've had lying around. Leftover bed slats for rafters, transparent tarp, some PVC coated chicken wire to make a roof. So it lets some daylight in, not much, but it lets some in. Yeah, that's the workshop. Or as wife likes to call it, my man cave. I haven't quite built an arc reactor yet, but so it doesn't warrant the Iron Man cave, but it's mine. I'm happy. And I'll slowly add bits, but I've sunk most of my Christmas money into this, one thing and another, and bits and pieces, sponsorship money, and so on and so forth. So, you know, one always has to buy screws and nails and glue and stuff. Even if the materials come free, you still need to spend some money on it. But yeah, that's what all the money's going for, such as it is. It'll get there eventually. I'm not exactly sure where there is. Oh yeah, that's another thing I've built. Those are colour changing lanterns, because otherwise it looks boring. So, and in case anybody's wondering, hang on, turning around. That's me. Hi, internet and friends. So, there we go. That's what I've been doing. That's what the funding for the stories is supporting. And sooner or later I'm going to have a functional workshop, at which point I start making things. It's like, well, whatever I care to. I mean, I've got a couple of projects in mind. I've got some bits and pieces of metal I plan on hammering the hell out of and turning into things. Daughter wants me to make her a sword, because why not? But she has an odd iron allergy or nickel allergy, I'm not sure which, so she wants me to make her a non-ferrous sword. Yeah, so I'm going to have to build a forge that's capable of forging titanium and or copper alloys. Yeah, I've talked about that before. Well, written about that before. And that's going to be, euphemistically, that's going to be interesting to do. But it's doable. I think the Japanese word for that sort of thing is Moroagami or something like that. But essentially it means something like Damascus steel, but using non-ferrous metals. It's generally used for jewellery work, but you can buy these copper bars of copper and titanium. They're meant to be used as bus bars, but they're like sort of I'm not exactly sure how they use them. I think they explosively weld the copper to the titanium, but it's like sort of layered. Well, if you hammer those out and fold them, you get something that's very much like Damascus steel, but without the steel part. So that's a project I've got in mind. I'm not sure whether the forge is actually capable of getting up to those temperatures, but we'll see. It'll be interesting. And there's some practice work before that, of course. And umpteen dozen other things I need to make. But at the moment, what I'm using the workshop for is making more of the workshop. So, anyway, this video's gotten long enough, so bye.